Good afternoon and welcome to this week's AI Would Agree. Um, Slightly somber week this week. It's been a little bit surreal to some extent after the Queen's passing last week. So first thing I'd like to do before we get started with the show is just kind of put out there that share our condolences from the business. It's been a very sad week and a week for reflection for many people across the globe, which is really surprised me in terms of the impact that the events have had. Um, so yeah, Dave, a week of reflection, I guess, for many people and many businesses. Some good decisions being made and some decisions that have been questioned. And I think from my side of things, it's fairly easy to question things when you're an onlooker looking in, not understanding how some of those decisions have been made. And I've seen a lot of people be damned because they did and damned because they didn't. In an interesting outcomes from a lot of things. Anyway, on to the actual show itself. Pleased to introduce to you my guest for this week, which is Iain Banks from Ventrica. Welcome to the show, Ian.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you having me.
Just for clarity, we're not related that we know of.
It's interesting that we're not, but my brother's name is Paul as well. So,
Well, there we go. There's a lot. Google it. Go and have a look on Facebook at Paul Banks. I once let's just say I had one too many runs and decided to introduce to my Facebook connections list all the Paul Bankses on Facebook. It was some very interesting conversations where we're across the globe.
I normally get you're the author or something like that. That's normally the question I get. Are you related to the author? And I was like, no. Well, I had money when he was with us, but yeah, no relation. I think. Paul, I'm sure if we'd done some ancestry, we might find some small relation.
Yeah, I do actually have Scottish heritage, so
Well, there you go.
let's do some research down the line. Great to have you on the show, Ian. I think we've been chatting for some time now. I've really enjoyed our conversations. And for those who are kind of watching the show at home, as I start out with pretty much every guest that comes on the show, I know it'll have been by accident, but how did you get involved in contact centers, Ian?
I'd love to say it wasn't by accident, but it was by accident. If you take, I've been in the contact center industry 25 years now. And I actually started as an advisor on the phones working for, at the time, it was TSB Phone Bank. And I got the job and Jailor was my chance. When I was young, like all young guys out there who wanted to aspire to be a professional footballer, I had those aspirations as well. And actually, without wanting to blow my own trumpet, I wasn't a bad footballer at the time. And there were opportunities for me to do that. Long story short, I had a bit of a serious injury and serious accident, which stopped me progressing. I was never the university type. My whole family they're all teachers, but it just wasn't for me. But my dad at the time, I worked for TSP and he was able to get me a job for 2 months. It was a 2 month summer job just to get me some money in my back pocket. Reevaluate. You talked about in your introduction about reflection, but give me time to reflect on what I wanted to do and then make a decision. And that was 25 years ago. And I quickly realized that I could make a career out of it. And that was at the time, just at that hockey stick where contact centers were really just starting out about the traditional voice activity. But yeah, I did land in it by chance. There is no getting away from it. However, it certainly has given me the career that I hope, and I've been talking about this a lot recently. And as this industry evolves, it has allowed me, my family to have the career that currently sitting here as CEO of Ventrica. 25 years ago, as I was an advisor on the phone, would have I realized this? No.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think the more I talk about it, I don't know whether it's just because the recency effect kind of playing in, but the more I talk to people about it, John Devlin was the first person that kind of highlighted it on when he was on the show a few weeks back about how we never portray the contact center world as a job that young people should aspire to get into. And it's not just contact centers. There's lots of other jobs, and I've spoken about. I wasn't particularly engaging on the contact center world myself before, but I come from a retail background. Retail tends to get tarred with the same brush quite a lot. I'll go and be a shelf stacker. those sorts of conversations, which are really, I don't think you appreciate it unless you're actually in the job, how condescending that actually feels or
Yeah.
how patronizing that actually feels. Um, and I know contact centers get kind of tarred with the same brush, but I'm pleased to say, like, I've seen so many conversations on LinkedIn and otherwise recently where contact centers are. I do feel as though there's a movement within the industry. I'm not sure it's spread beyond that yet, but there's a recognition there that there's some work to be done on that front.
100%. And John and I know each other well, and we've spoken about this. Another good Scotsman as well, Paul. And I think I'm your third Scots CEO, I think it was you said. And then so
That's right.
save the best till last. Sorry, John. Um, but yeah, and it's definitely, there is a movement happening, and it's fantastic to see. It really is, because I've got three young daughters, and my eldest daughter will be 17 in December, and she's at that age at the moment going, well, I don't know what to do. They'll go to university, they're not go to university. And she said, Dad, I really like doing what you do. And I talked to her and I said, well, if that's something you're passionate about, there's ways in which you can get into the contact center industry. And it's now, when I joined, it was about salary and job title, job description. But if you look at now the evolution of this industry that we work in, it's more. It brings more to it, and it brings more evolution. It's got significantly more mature. I mean, you look at your organization, TMAC. I mean, the level of insight and analytics and the offerings that you now bring. So that's another extension of the contact center industry. Again, so I said this in a previous discussion. When you look at that data scientist, I mean, 25 years ago, would anyone have thought that data scientists would play a part in the contact center industry? Absolutely not. And you look at technology and data security, crypto. I mean, it's these are all avenues that when I was growing up in this industry, you didn't have. It was very vertical. It was, you were an agent, senior advisor, team leader, ops, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's what got me to where I am. But what this industry is now bringing to the table is far broader, and it's fantastic to see the investment in that organizations are making in youth unemployment as well, because that's something that's extremely important. I follow and I've engaged with a gentleman, Jack Parsons, on LinkedIn, who talks about investing in the youth day. And certainly from my point of view with Ventrica, that's something that we are absolutely trying to do. And I do hope that this movement continues within our industry, because it's great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're starting to see, and maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's been accelerated by COVID and the whole talk of the people's rearranging their ideals to be in jobs that they want to be in or that's more convenient for them, and the old remote workforce. People don't have to just tour the call centers that are near them. They can now apply for call centers that are at the other end of the country that are maybe more suited to their skill set. Because people have this misconception that all contact centers are created equal, and that you
Yeah.
go work in one and it's the same as another, and they're vastly different, even just in terms of management styles, let alone service and industry that they're actually within. I mean, another CEO that I had on the show, actually, who was it? Who was aspiring to be a footballer, who had an injury that meant he couldn't continue to be a footballer, and is now a CEO of a BPO. There's something in that as well.
There is something in that as well. Yeah.
Was Martin Anderson, who's massively passionate about these sorts of things, and it's interesting to see the choice that people have now, and the focus on agent welfare and well-being
It,
driving that next level.
for me, culture. I mean, again, when you look at the industry we work on, it's based, I always say, I try and demystify. I'm a simple guy, all right? But I try and demystify how we and what this industry is built on. And for me, it's three pillars. It's people, process, and technology. And COVID has changed the balance, whatnot. But what it has done is empower employees. Again, go back to what I said, where when I was growing out, it was job title and salary. It's not about that. It's about the culture. It is about what level of investment the organization is making back in its people, leadership development. And what employees now have choice available to them. As you said, Paul, geographies don't matter anymore. Um, and it's really important. The organizations that are going to succeed are the ones that get the right balance between those three pillars, but are the ones that, because yes, technology is absolutely influencing our industry. There is no getting away from that. But I am also still a bit old school. where we are heavily people orientated as well. And most technology is going to remove, and this is it's a bit of a crude saying, but where technology is going to remove the high volume, low value type transaction, and what will be left will be the high value, low volume transaction. The employees and ambassadors that are dealing with those types of inquiries left need to be highly educated, highly trained, ongoing. It's not just, okay, we'll get you in. How do you retain that? Because again, in this current economic climate, the way inflation's going as well, the ability to retain people in an organization is huge. It is a differentiator. And again, people talk about this and it frustrates me because I am really passionate about it. People say, they say, oh, how we treat our people, that's what differentiates us. And do you know, that's really hard to quantify. How do you quantify? And that's something that certainly within Ventrica, when I joined, my first hire was a chief people officer. I think that shows my intentions within the organization is to do right by the people. But yeah, we're definitely seeing a shift in employees and well-being, employees' health, mental health, and how organizations support that is going to be fundamental to people's careers going forward.
Absolutely. No, some really great valid points there. And I think you're right. I'm previously speaking with Simon Norrie on, how you
Yeah,
measure things that are
I
sometimes
was messaging Simon and I were messaging each other today just when you mentioned that name.
well, of course you will. That's why I mentioned no.
That was not very it's like it's
Started in the post, Simon. But it is interesting. People talk about how we measure things. You don't measure it, you don't improve it.
yeah,
Sometimes some of the more, I prefer to call it core elements. Some people call them soft elements. Like the core elements of things that you want to measure. If you want to be an aggressively expanded business, how do you measure whether you're aggressively expanding or not? But the fact of the matter remains that we're getting ever closer, I think, as an industry to um, being seen as that much more caring industry, as opposed to, what one of our team put a post out the other week was about the call center being at the coal face, if you want to compare it to
yeah,
the old coal mines, and it's absolutely not that anymore. And I think the people of the Northeast, we've got a huge call center industry up here,
yeah.
as with various other geographies in the UK. And I think if you ask anybody up here, I don't think there is a poor opinion of working in call centers anymore. Some bad experiences without a doubt, but that's any role, right?
You get that, and you get that in any industry. And again, um, but that's where I think the contact centers evolving and empowering employees to be successful is important. And this isn't a plug in any way, shape, or form, but that's why you and I, how we first started this conversation is with our two organizations. That's where companies like Ventrica, we need a TMAC to help us. We need a TMAC that will create the right culture, the offerings that you bring, your solutions that you bring that, in my opinion, are tailor-made to what we're trying to do in terms of that nimbleness, that agility, that flexible, and being able to give employees accessibility and information. And more importantly, because I've got the easy job, CEO is the easy job, right? The two hardest jobs I've ever done, one was the agent, frontline agent. It is hard, followed very closely by team leader. Okay. And the team leader is the engine room to any contact center. If the team leader is not working efficiently, it's going to be really challenging. And I think that's where organizations like yourself are going to be successful, where the solutions you put give those team leaders the nuggets of data and insights that allows people to do their job better, because we all can do our job better. But until you tell someone they're doing something wrong, they're going to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So I do think, I do think data is going to be important. I'm a big fan of data. But it's a bit of a corner phase. It's what you do with the data that counts.
Yeah.
Remember, we went years ago that before the pandemic, it was big data. That was the key term that was used, and then it kind of fell asleep. But now it's fundamentally important. Employees want to know. Employees want to know, how am I performing? So yeah, I do think that shift is going to just get more and more credible as time goes on.
Yeah, I really appreciate those kind words, Ian. And I think from a TMAC perspective, it's because we come at it from a contact center point of view, not from a tech point of view. We've never wanted to design technology that's a byproduct of what we've done. People look at us and see an AI company or a speech analytics or a conversation analytics company. That's great, but that's not what we are. We're a contact center company who specialize in helping other contact centers with technology. And the technology just enables us to do what we want to do, but we've all been designed from, being sat in leadership positions in contact centers and being frustrated with the tools or, the data or the lack of data that we had at that point in time and wondering, surely there's got to be a better way of doing this. And I think that's the differentiator for a lot of outsourcers and BPOs as well, right? Is it's as opposed to just being there to provide a service, it's about understanding intrinsically from the client side what you would have appreciated had you been on the other side of the desk and doing your level best to make that happen.
And I think that's why I find myself quite fortunate in the role I'm doing, because I've got the scars on my back from growing up in this industry and knowing what works well and what doesn't work well. But you did touch on something there. And you notice when I was talking about TMAC and the partnership, I didn't talk about technology. I talked about solution. Because technology is not the silver bullet. And I mean, during my short time in Genesys, what I did see and what I did live and breathe was the easy part is investing in technology. The hard part is embedding the technology and making that solution part of your DNA. And that's where so many organizations fail. They buy into all the shiny thing on the mantelpiece and go, oh, hey, this is the next best thing that's happening. But how do you actually make that solution core to your business and that your employees live and breathe it? You've got to win the hearts and minds. And it can't just be a case of buying technology, throwing it against the wall and hoping something sticks. And that's why I think as we evolve, and especially in the BPO, because again, what people fail to understand is we've got 30, 40 clients in our business. And every client comes with a very, very different need, demand, whether it's 10 FTE or 10,000 FTE, they all have the same challenges. And our job is to make sure that we put forward value creation that will deliver superior customer experience. But what's now becoming so important, and there was always the hashtag CX and customer experience, and that's so important. But it's the employee experience now is just as equally important. And I think it was Richard Branson that said, well, the most important people are my employees. If I have a happy employee, I will have a happy client. And again, for me, simplifying, that's what I try and do. I don't get it right all the time, but I'd rather fail trying than fail sitting about doing nothing.
Yeah, I've kind of talked on the show before about my views on kind of reversing the pyramid, I guess,
Yeah.
and flipping the hierarchy upside down. And yeah,
That's a conversation. My CFO, Joe Passingham, who talks, her old mentor, Fert Quintana, who was the CEO of Sitel, he had that triangle and he would always flip it. Every single time he would flip it. Oh, you're spot on that one.
but that's got to be something more than a talk and gesture and something more that people kind of talk about in C-suite meetings and things like that. You've got to go to your point. You've got to lead from the front and do that every day of the week. You've got to do that. It's like having, I've talked previously with Craig Fern about agent well-being and welfare. And he was like, one of his main points was, so you give the staff free ice creams on a Friday. That's great for an agent welfare point of view. But what happens on the Thursday and the Wednesday and the Tuesday and the Monday? Like, there's got to be an overarching strategy behind all of that. And don't get me wrong, don't stop giving your staff free ice cream.
Yeah, don't do that. No.
But it's a part of an overarching strategy of looking after the welfare and well-being of your staff.
Yeah, and to actually what brings more complexity is pre-pandemic, the agent welfare was very much about operating on a brick and mortar environment, but we've now got hybrid solutioning. So trying to create an agent welfare for an employee or an ambassador that sits in the office and the agent welfare or employee welfare for an employee sitting at the home, it's very difficult. And a lot of people, and again, I'm putting on this, a lot of people say they've cracked that. I would challenge anyone, and I include myself in this, I would challenge anyone that says they've cracked that yet, because it evolves. It's such a fluid discussion. I mean, when I joined Ventrica, that's 6 months ago. Some people will say, God, it feels a lot longer. Okay. Um, but we done an employee survey and we got good results, which was excellent to see. But actually for me, what was important wasn't the results. It was the data behind the results.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if I was to do the survey again today and what an employee looks for in terms of the benefits, okay, I could rip up our benefits package right now and have to start again because the world is evolving so rapidly and employees' mindset is changing. And that's the challenge we've got. And again, that's what I'm saying. How do you retain good employees? It's not just about giving them the best salary in the world. It's no longer about that. It's what else can you bring to the organization, the working life balance, support their mental health, doing more community work, providing a better benefits package that is aligned to what employees want. And that's not easy. And it doesn't happen overnight either. It's a difficult process.
Interesting. We touched on a couple of things there in terms of acknowledging kind of honestly things that have gone wrong and things that perhaps haven't done right. What are, I mean, I guess the top three things that if you were able to kind of go back in time and pass yourself some information, what's the main three things that you wish you'd been able to pass or have been taught by somebody so you didn't have to go through the pain of making those mistakes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd love to sit here and say I've not made any mistakes, but that's a nonsense. But you know, actually, I'll tell you the mistakes I've made with the person and the leader that I am today. So again, I use that phrase. I would rather fail trying than fail sitting on my backside. And I have failed. I've made some real errors that one of my old leaders, and it was a mistake. And he said to me, that's the most expensive training lesson you'll ever get in your life. If I was to give you three examples, three pieces of advice, one was, never compromise. Now you can interpret that in a number of ways, but the way I interpret it is don't accept second best. Okay. Don't sit there and go, oh, I'll just do that. Don't plod along. Always strive to do better. So I wish I had learned that earlier on because there were some points where some T-junctions in my life where I chose the easy option and it was the wrong option. The second piece of advice is surround yourself with people that are better than you. And I've been fortunate enough to bring people in and build on the team that Ventrica have got there, but I have surrounded myself with people that are better and more intelligent than I am and can plug the gaps that I've been. And that has really helped me. When I work for organizations again, where rather than find the right person, it's just been let's try and fill the role as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, having people that will challenge me is important. And then the third part, and this is a really difficult one because it sounds easy what I'm about to say, but it's actually really difficult, is having the acute ability to listen to people. And that sounds really, really easy to do, but actually it's not, because pride sometimes gets in the way. And when pride gets in the way and you start to use your heart over your head, that's when you start making wrong decisions. And that's why when all three are all linked, but when you surround yourself with better people than you that will challenge you, you've got to be able to listen to those people and take on board what people are saying. I've been blessed with some phenomenal leaders who just I aspire to. Okay. But on the flip side, I've also been blessed with some horrendous leaders. And I've looked at those leaders and go, my God, I am going to learn from the mistakes you've made. And that's where I would see those three are the pieces of advice that if someone had told me 25 years ago, I think I wouldn't have made the mistakes I've made. I still would have made some mistakes, but I wouldn't have made the glaring ones that they have made in the past. But would I cheat? Do I regret anything? Absolutely not. It has made me the person that I am today. And I've got flaws. I mean, if you were to ask my daughters and my partner, they would tell me I've got many flaws. If you were to ask my team, they would tell you I've got many flaws. But I hope that I've got more pros than cons when it comes to my management style and personality.
Some interesting words. And yeah, I kind of empathize with a lot of them. I'd actually encourage people, rather than kind of taking advice so they don't make the mistakes, is to go in intentionally make those mistakes so that you can learn from them quickly. Because it took me a long time to learn all the mistakes that I've learned. I wish I could have condensed the learning down.
Yeah,
Uh,
swapping it down. Yeah.
um, so yeah, some interesting words there, Ian. Thank you very much for those. And I guess just before I've got sort of 4 or 5 minutes left of the show. Ventrica's been a well-known BPO in the UK industry for some time now. Um, what's next for Ventrica?
Yeah. Again, if our board members are looking, we've got a board meeting next week, and I'm sure they're listening to this. But no, I mean, the reason I left an organization like Genesys, who I loved working for, I know it was a short period of time, but when the opportunity to lead Ventrica on the next leg of its journey, and people thought, yep, big boots to fill with Dino stepping out. I do believe I've got those big boots, but I know it's a tall order. But yeah, we have been investing significantly this year in terms of the people, process, technology, building some of those things that I've said, putting the right people in place who are better than me and some other people to take us on the next leg of our journey. And I'm really excited about what the future will. Um, we will be going on a very aggressive approach to the market. But what we will never lose is our identity, where we forget what got us to where we are today, which is our people and our clients. So we don't have ambitions to be the size of some of our tier one competitors. We absolutely have ambitions to disrupt this market, and people who know me know that I'm the type of person that pushes the envelope. So we will definitely be doing it. But what we will not do is forget who and what got us to where we are today, because that's our DNA. That's the core. Um, and we will be building on that core. But yeah, there's some exciting times for our employees, for our existing and hopefully new customers coming in, and also working with partners like yourself on how we evolve our business going forward. So yeah, watch the space, especially over the next 4, 6 weeks. There's going to be a lot of movement.
Interesting, exciting. And remember, folks, you saw it here first, right? I've been waiting to say that for ages. Brilliant. Well, I feel like I'm on the news now. Ian, it's been a pleasure as ever.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for coming on the show. It's
thank you for having me.
uh, no problem at all. Hopefully, the audience at home have enjoyed the regular slot. And I think next week we're talking with Owen McCoy from Emerald Contact Center on learning and development. So first time in a while that I haven't had a CEO on the show. But Owen, I have never met anybody who's more passionate about people and personal development. So if you've enjoyed today, I'm sure you'll enjoy next week as well. Hopefully, we'll see you back next Thursday, 3 p.m. UK time. And if you've got any comments or questions, if there's anything kind of comes to mind you'd like to have asked Ian, you can get a chance to during the show for whatever reason. You're watching it back after you've finished work, maybe. Free to drop the comments in the LinkedIn article, and we'll get back to answering you. Thanks very much. See you next week. Bye bye.